help us understand what in the world that means, peripheral third parties?
Sure. And I think it almost certainly means people who were investigated but not charged. And this is in conformance with longstanding Justice Department policy, which can be neatly summarized in 3 words: indict or shut up. That's the general rule. So if someone's investigated for a crime but they're not charged, the overall Justice Department policy is you don't talk about that in public. Asterisk the James Comey news conference about Hillary Clinton. But that was so much an outlier. That is not the general way the Justice Department handles these things. So it's interesting to me that he doesn't say non-charged individuals. He says peripheral third parties, meaning, I guess, that they might disclose that some big shots were investigated but not charged. I don't know. But undoubtedly, that's, I would assume that's what they're talking about, that policy.
People who weren't charged, that's everybody. Nobody got charged in this. So
Manafort, Gates, Flynn,
there you go.
Papadopoulos.
Well, I was thinking more of the president and those that we didn't see indictments for, because we've seen so much information on Manafort, Flynn, Papadopoulos. But your point is really well taken. In terms of the redactions and who is going through it, there's some reporting out there that Robert Mueller is assisting Bill Barr.
Well, Barr has said that
this
himself.
Yeah.
None of this, the first 3 things, the 60 grand jury material, which he says cannot be shared by law, anything that would compromise intelligence sources and ongoing investigations, that was all in his letter last Sunday. So that's not a surprise. The only thing new here is the reference to third parties. And frankly, I was surprised that that was not in the letter on Sunday, because I would think that they would say, we're not going to say a lot. And the reason that was sort of expected is Mueller is required under the special counsel regulations to submit to the Attorney General a report on prosecution and declination decisions, meaning who'd you prosecute and who did you decline to prosecute. Yeah. And that's why that sets up this sensitivity.
When it comes to the redactions, who is the ultimate authority on it, though? I mean, does the House Judiciary Committee, does the Senate Judiciary Committee have any say over what gets redacted, since they are the oversight committees for the Justice Department?
No.
Will the Gang of 8 get to see what's behind those redactions?
Well, the intelligence material could potentially, they could discuss it in closed session. But he's talking about the report that's going to go to the Congress and be made public. So, no, Congress has no role in that because it's a separation of powers issue. This is an executive branch responsibility. And Barr's letter also said last Sunday that Robert Mueller would assist him in sort of flagging. It may not be possible, in other words, for somebody shown this thing, sitting down in a room to figure out what the grand jury material is. So Barr's people are going to have to say, this line on page 87, that came from the grand jury. They're the ones who can spot the ball, so they're the ones who will help identify that grand jury material. Now, you raise an interesting question. The material that's given to Congress and redacted for public view in the Congress, could the Congress go back and say, well, we want to be briefed in closed session about this big square blotch of black on page 93? Maybe. That could happen. I could see that.
Peter Alexander, the president is weighing in already. Here's what he just said.
I have great confidence in the Attorney General, and if that's what he'd like to do, I have nothing to hide. This was a hoax. This was a witch hunt. I have absolutely nothing to hide, and I think a lot of things are coming out with respect to the other side, but I have a lot of confidence in the Attorney General.
So, what do you make of that?
Well, it makes us have a new insight into what Mar-a-Lago looks like, as evidenced by the white flower treatment that Linda McMahon just got. You saw that vase behind him here. That's why.
That's the first thing I commented on. Look at that vase.
It's the first thing that strikes you when you look at that picture, right? It's pretty remarkable. But the president he's left this in the hands of the Attorney General, a guy that he handpicked. You know, everything he had to say bad over the course of the last couple of years, he hasn't stopped ripping on Jeff Sessions, the former AG who recused himself here. But he put the AG, he put William Barr in charge, a guy who he has trusted from the start. Privately, we're told by aides that he's complimented how Barr's handled himself throughout this. You remember Barr wrote that unsolicited 19-page memo where he basically said the president, that this was all he wouldn't be pursued for the idea of obstruction on this. And last night I was traveling with the president when he was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, his first rally since the Mueller report was completed, since this whole sort of new debate has begun. And the president made it clear right out of the gates. He said that the Russian hoax is dead. He said the collusion delusion is over. This is clearly something that he's going to use as a vehicle to try to amp up his base, ramp up his rhetoric. And he tried to make it personal, not just for him, but for the people in that room, saying, look at those others, the media, the Democrats, they tried to divide the country. I'm the one trying to keep us together. They are the problem here.
It seemed like he was energized last night in a way that the WikiLeaks releases energized him at the end of the 2016 campaign. No irony there. So William Barr also says the White House is not going to look at this report and decide what is privileged and what is not privileged. Is that because William Barr had a conversation with the president about whether he wanted to look at it, or is it because he's taking the president's answers from reporters who've been asking him over and over again on the White House South Lawn?
Well, it sounds like the latter. Let me read another item from the report. He says, although the president would have the right to assert privilege over certain parts of the report, he has stated publicly that he intends to defer to me. And the president, in the soundbite you just played a moment ago, as he was pressed at Mar-a-Lago by reporters, didn't sort of cue in on this. I know we were pressing NBC, happens to be the pool today. One of our team members was in the room. We said, ask him about that very fact, and he didn't bite on it.
It's interesting because you brought up how he went after Jeff Sessions so much. He's been on the record saying that his attorney general should be somebody who protects him. He thinks that Eric Holder was an attorney general who protected the president, right or wrongly. That's what he believes that role is all about. The fact that he's not going after Bill Barr, that's going to open some doors to a lot of allegations that the president picked somebody he knew would protect him.
I think that's true, certainly. I mean, Democrats are going to pick on a lot of things, obviously, here. But what was notable, and Pete made note of this, and we knew it before perhaps, but it is emphasized here, is that the special counsel is helping in this process. The special counsel is highlighting these key portions. And for those Democrats and others paying attention at home who have been embracing the integrity of Robert Mueller, I think that should satisfy them to some degree. Nonetheless, there's a lot of redactions that are going to come out that people are going to be furious about. To be clear, though, this report is now, we know, nearly 400 pages long. We've only seen, and I counted the original summary of the principal conclusions today, 100-plus words of it so far. There's a lot more to be seen.
You say summary of principal conclusions because William Barr took issue with the idea that it was a summary of the entire report.
Correct.
Peter Alexander, thank you so much. Pete Williams, thank you as well, both of our Peters today.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.